I was supposed to be exhausted, jet-lagged, half asleep and already thinking about laundry and emails and how I'd pretend everything was fine again. But then I saw him, leaning against the hood of his car like he belonged there, and something inside me forgot how to breathe. I hadn't seen Logan in 6 months? Maybe more. Not since the last time we were both too drunk to say what we meant and too sober to blame it on the alcohol. He waved. Just a small gesture. One hand barely above his shoulder. But it felt warm, familiar in a way that made my chest ache. I pulled my suitcase over, my shoes clicking too fast on the concrete, and when I got close enough to smell his cologne, that soft, woodsy scent I always pretended not to notice, he smiled. "You look tired," he said. I laughed. "You look smug." He didn't deny it. The ride back was quiet, not awkward, just filled with things we weren't saying. His playlist was low, some indie guitar track I didn't recognize, but it matched the way the city lights slipped past the windows, soft and slow. I leaned my head back, watched the blur of color, and told myself to stop staring at his hands on the wheel. But they moved with this quiet control. Fingers tapping, knuckles flexing just slightly at every turn. I remembered how those hands felt once. On my back. My face. God. I wasn't supposed to remember that. "I missed this," he said so casually I almost missed it. I looked over. "What?" He shrugged, eyes still on the road. "You. Talking. Complaining about your flights. Laughing at your own jokes." I swallowed. Hard. "You remembered that?" Of course I did. We were 5 exits from my apartment, and I suddenly hated every mile that brought us closer. Because the way he glanced at me just then, just 1 second too long at the red light, it didn't feel like friendship. Felt like something waiting. And the worst part? I didn't want it to stop. Not yet. He took the long way. And I didn't ask why. Maybe he thought I needed more time to decompress after the flight. Or maybe he knew I wasn't ready to go back to my empty apartment. The city stretched out around us like a half-forgotten memory. Buildings I used to pass every day, streets that once meant something. But tonight, with Logan driving, it all felt different. Slower. Like we were circling something we didn't dare name. "You hungry?" he asked like it was nothing. I shook my head, then hesitated. "Maybe. A little." He didn't answer. Just flicked on his turn signal and pulled off the highway like he already knew the answer. We ended up at this little place near the lake. Dim lights, quiet booths, the kind of place you only bring someone when you want the night to last longer. I used to love that about him. How he never rushed anything. Inside, we sat across from each other, pretending this was casual. Pretending we weren't both watching how close our hands got on the table. "So how was Boston?" he asked, sipping from a short glass. "Rainy. Cold. Productive." He raised a brow. "Sounds thrilling." I laughed. "Well, there was a cute guy at the conference. But he talked about cryptocurrency for an hour." He smirked. "I could do that." "Oh, please don't." We both laughed, but there was something under it. Something heavier. When the food came, I barely touched mine. He noticed. "You always pick at your fries when you're nervous," he said. I looked up, startled. "You remember that?" He just nodded. And that's when I realized he remembered everything. Not just the good. The small. The soft. The things no one else ever bothered to notice. We left without saying much more. The silence wasn't awkward. It was electric. Outside, the night had that kind of chill that makes you want to press close to someone just for warmth. I shivered, and without thinking, he took off his jacket and draped it over my shoulders. It still smelled like him. Like safety. Like the one place I swore I wouldn't go back to. But I didn't give it back. And when we got to the car, he opened the door for me like always. His hand brushed my lower back just slightly. Barely there. And I froze. Not because I didn't like it, but because I did. Too much. He drove past my building. And neither of us said a word. I saw it in the corner of my eye. The familiar brick, the balcony with the dying plant I always forgot to water. And I opened my mouth to speak. But then, I didn't. I just watched it disappear in the rearview mirror. Like it belonged to some other version of me. One I wasn't ready to return to. Logan didn't look at me. Didn't explain. Just kept driving like he had every right to. And somehow, I let him. The silence in the car wasn't empty. It was full of questions I was too scared to ask. Why did you come tonight, Logan? Why me? Why now? The jacket around my shoulders was too warm, but I didn't take it off. I wanted it there, wanted something of him against my skin, even if it wasn't supposed to mean anything. We drove along the water, where the road narrowed and the city lights faded. Just the sound of tires on pavement, and the occasional low hum of a late-night song slipping through the speakers. I stared out the window, my pulse louder than the music. I didn't want you to go back to that apartment, he said suddenly, voice low. I turned to him slowly. Why? He didn't answer right away. I've been thinking about you, he said finally. A lot. More than I probably should. That word should hung in the air like smoke. I felt it, the pull between us. Quiet, magnetic. Dangerous. It wasn't just attraction. It was history. Memories that lived in the corners of our skin, waiting for one wrong moment to come back to life. You can tell me to take you home, he said, eyes still on the road. Say the word and I will. But he didn't slow down. And I didn't say anything. I just sat there, wrapped in his jacket, my fingers curled tight in the fabric, heart climbing into my throat. Because if I told him to stop, this would end. And I wasn't ready for that. Not yet. We parked. And I didn't ask whose place it was. I didn't need to. I already knew. It wasn't the apartment he used to have. Not the one with the crooked blinds and the couch we never quite broke in. This one was different, cleaner, quieter. Like he'd built a new life after me. But as I stepped inside, there was still something. A book I once gave him on the coffee table. The same black mug he used to make tea in when I couldn't sleep. A candle that smelled like late nights and unsaid things. He'd changed. But not completely. Make yourself at home, he said, tossing his keys in that same ceramic bowl he always kept by the door. I stood there for a second too long. Like if I moved, something would shift that we couldn't undo. I finally sat on the edge of the couch. Not all the way back. Not relaxed. Just balanced. Like I wasn't sure if I should stay or run. Logan walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge and came back with 2 glasses of water. Always water. He remembered I couldn't sleep after drinking anything else. You okay? He asked, watching me like he already knew I wasn't. I don't know, I said honestly. This feels like a really bad idea. He nodded slowly. But it also feels good. Doesn't it? That's what scared me the most. How good it felt to be near him again. Like my body remembered before my brain could catch up. He sat next to me. Not too close. But close enough that the air felt charged between us. I could feel the heat of him just inches from my skin. And then he said it. Quiet. Like it might break something. I still think about that night. I didn't ask which night. Because I knew. The one with the thunderstorm. The one neither of us liked. The way he touched my face like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to. I wasn't ready, I whispered. I know, he said. I wasn't either. We didn't move. We just breathed. Together. But my pulse was speeding. My hands were cold. And somewhere beneath my ribs, everything was unraveling, slowly like a thread pulled tight. 'Cause I wanted him. Still. And I wasn't sure if that made me weak or just honest. Then he reached out just one hand and touched my wrist. Barely. And I didn't pull away. He leaned in. Slowly. And everything inside me said don't stop. It wasn't fast. It wasn't reckless. It was deliberate. Like he was giving me time to pull away. To change my mind. But I didn't. I just sat there, frozen in that space between memory and possibility, breathing through my mouth because suddenly even that felt too loud. His hand, still resting on my wrist, traced the inside with his thumb. Small slow circles. Like he was memorizing my pulse. My eyes flicked up, met his, and it was like something cracked open. Because his gaze, it wasn't hungry. It was familiar. Like he knew exactly who I used to be. And wanted me anyway. I should go, I whispered. But my voice was trembling. Even I didn't believe myself. He leaned in an inch closer. Do you want to? I couldn't answer. Not with words. But I turned my face toward his. Just slightly. Enough. And that's all it took. His lips brushed mine like a question. Not a kiss. Not yet. Just a breath. A warning. I felt it, heat blooming at the base of my neck, the way my shoulders tensed like they didn't trust me anymore. every nerve pulled tight, waiting for something I swore I wasn't going to let happen again. But God, the way he touched me, it didn't feel like starting something. It felt like coming home to a place I never stopped missing. I kissed him first. Or maybe we met in the middle, I don't know. It was soft at first. Careful. Like we were still afraid of all the things between us. But then it deepened. His hand cupped my jaw, thumb sliding just below my ear, and I melted. It wasn't about lust. Not really. It was about recognition. That quiet, devastating moment when you realize your body still remembers someone, long after your brain told you to forget. When we finally broke apart, I didn't open my eyes. I didn't want to see what I'd just done reflected back at me. But I felt him rest his forehead against mine. And in that silence he whispered something I wasn't ready for. I never stopped waiting for you. He led me down the hallway. And every step felt like a decision I couldn't take back. It was slow. Silent. No tugging, no rush. Just his fingers around mine, warm, steady, and the sound of our breathing overlapping in the dark. The hallway was narrow, but somehow it felt infinite. Like every memory we'd ever made was pressed into these walls, watching us. Waiting. And still I followed. I didn't ask what we were doing. Didn't ask where this was going. Because I already knew. He pushed open the door to his bedroom with his shoulder, still holding my hand. The room smelled faintly of cedar and something softer, something like worn cotton and sleep. He let go of me only to reach for the lamp on his nightstand. A low amber light filled the space, wrapping everything in warmth. And that's when I froze. Not because I didn't want him, but because I did. So much it scared me. I stood in the middle of the room, jacket still on, like some girl who didn't know how to stay or leave. Like I'd stepped into a version of myself I'd forgotten how to be. He turned to face me. Didn't touch me this time. Just looked. "You don't have to," he said. 3 simple words. No pressure. No assumptions. But God, the way he said it, low, careful, like he was protecting me from himself. "I know," I whispered. And I stepped closer. The air shifted. His hands went to my arms, sliding the jacket off slowly, like it weighed more than it should. Like it held every hesitation I didn't say out loud. It slipped to the floor without a sound. And then his hands didn't move. They stayed on my bare arms, thumbs brushing along my skin like he was tracing the places I'd changed. We stood like that for a long moment. No talking. No kissing. Just tension. Throbbing. Beautiful. I could feel the heat between us, this unbearable closeness that hadn't touched its breaking point yet. But it was close. Too close. And then he whispered, "Are you sure?" I didn't answer with words. I just reached for him. His breath hit my collarbone, and I forgot what it meant to be afraid. It was soft at first, almost shy, like he didn't want to spook whatever fragile thing had just cracked open between us. But it wasn't hesitation. It was reverence. His lips moved like they remembered me. Not just my body, me. The curve of my breath. The way my skin tensed when touched slowly. How I always shivered when someone got too close to my neck. He still knew. And I let him. There was no rush. No clothes flung off. No frantic need to prove something. Just heat. Unfolding. His fingertips traced my back, like he was reading a language I'd forgotten how to speak. I leaned into him, not because I was ready, but because something deeper had taken over. Something older than doubt. My hand slid up his chest, found his shoulders. They felt stronger than I remembered. Or maybe I'd just forgotten how good it felt to lean on someone and not fall apart. He kissed just below my jaw, and I swear every part of me exhaled, like I hadn't taken a full breath in months. And the way he held me, not possessive, not greedy, just present, anchored. I think that's what undid me most. That he wasn't trying to take anything from me. He was just there, holding space for something I didn't know I still carried. I don't know how long we stayed like that, pressing into each other, breathing like we were trying to memorize the rhythm. But at some point, he whispered something into my skin. "I thought I lost you." I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because the truth was, so did I. And yet, there we were. Skin to skin, heart to heart, with everything we never said unraveling in the silence between us. And when he finally pulled back just slightly to look at me, his eyes said the one thing I wasn't ready to hear. "I love you," he said. Even when I wasn't supposed to. And just like that, Everything in me stilled. The heat, the closeness, the breathlessness of the moment, it all paused, held in place by that one sentence. Soft, unapologetic, real. He wasn't asking for anything. He wasn't trying to change the past. He was just telling the truth. And that might have been the most dangerous thing of all. I blinked, unsure if I was about to cry or laugh or run, because I'd convinced myself he'd moved on, that what we had was over, a closed chapter in a book I'd shoved onto the highest shelf. But he was looking at me now like the story had never ended. I tried, he continued, his voice rougher now. Tried dating, distractions, deleting photos, but nothing worked. You were still in every song, every street, every damn airport terminal I walked through. I looked down. My fingers were shaking, and I hated how much I wanted to believe him, how much I still felt him, in places I thought I'd locked up for good. I don't want to make this complicated, he said, but if there's even the smallest part of you that's still. I cut him off, with a kiss. Not gentle this time, not hesitant. It was the kind of kiss that had been waiting far too long, full of everything we didn't say, all the pain, the longing, the buried hope. And when we finally pulled apart, my forehead resting against his, I whispered the only truth I had left. I never stopped either. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of the kind of peace that only comes when you stop running from what you already knew. We didn't say anything else. Not that night. We just lay there, tangled in limbs and warmth, like maybe, just maybe, the past hadn't won. And as sleep crept in, soft and slow, I realized something. I wasn't afraid anymore. Because sometimes the longest way home isn't a road. It's a person. And this time I wasn't going to let go.